People who rely on natural remedies for their well-being and those who want to choose natural health products over chemical pharmaceuticals are being prevented from doing so. Classifying natural health products, NHPs, as drugs is costing lives. The government says this is for our safety, but the NHPs have not caused a single recorded death in Canadian history. Given the known risks associated with pharmaceutical drugs, the most vital safety question for citizens to be asking is, how many deaths will the NHP regulation cause?
Instead of enjoying natural health products and an increased access to them, we are facing a crisis where we are losing access to most of our natural health products. The Standing Committee on Health and the Office of Natural Health Products Transition Team gave directions intended to increase access to natural health products in Canada. Despite these directions, Health Canada has imposed inappropriate drug-style regulations on natural health products industry. The only logical consequence of the current drug-style regulations that they are doing is to drastically reduce access to the natural health products, which is the opposite of what we want. The regulations deem all natural health products to be legal. Only those that can meet onerous conditions can remain on the market. There is no mechanism to prevent Health Canada from making the conditions more onerous. There is no mechanism to prevent Health Canada from adding new conditions. Half of the natural health products that go on the licensing process fail to get a license and must be taken away. A large number of natural health products are not being put through the licensing process and must be taken away once enforcement action is stepped up. Thousands of foreign national health products are no longer available. By some estimates, 75 to 80% of natural health products that Canadians have traditionally enjoyed will become unavailable under the current regulations. The Government of Canada has not done a single risk analysis to determine the risk of removing tens of thousands of natural health products from Canadians who rely upon them for health conditions. In effect, the government is pretending that products people rely upon for serious health conditions can be taken away without there being health consequences. Canadians demand increased access to natural health products. Currently, they are facing a crisis where the majority of natural health products they rely on for health conditions are being taken away. Many of the most innovative herbalists and producers will be put out of business, and innovation in the new multi-ingredient natural health products is grinding to a halt. Industry members simply no longer believe they can get approval for new products. In short, the natural health product community is being destroyed by drug-style regulations designed to restrict access to natural health products. This is a dangerous development which must be stopped if Canadians want to continue to use natural health products.
Have you read the transcripts from the Senate debates on it?
No.
Oh,
so there are senators who are opposing it.
Oh yeah, and they were all constitutional lawyers.
So most
every one of them that opposed it.
How the hell did the bill get passed if there's so much controversy then?
Well, I went and spoke to Health Canada inspector on Bay Street here.
Yeah.
And what she told me was she would not comment at all on the record. So I only got the audio. I was like, in your personal opinion, you know what I mean? Like, she's like, well, you know, when it was C-52, it was too specific. There was too much to argue against. So it got revisited again as C-6. It was still too specific.
Yeah.
So now they made C-36 so vague that there wasn't anything to really oppose in it. Like nothing clear as there was in 52. So that's why if you go to Health Food Store, they've never heard of it. Because it doesn't specifically target
and it's
anybody.
Passed now.
Yeah, read this part here.
I will invite all honorable senators to go on a little journey with me and imagine for a moment how they would feel if suddenly a government official appears at their door, maybe flashes a tiny identification card, which, if honorable senators are like me, they would have to peer at to read, and without a by your leave, enters their premises, sits down at their computer, starts to search, stands up, wanders around their premises, and even begins to seize files and other products that they might sell or produce. The government official not only does that without a by your leave
Somebody leaves a warrant.
They also do it without any prior notice or warnings. They can hold on to those goods for long enough to disrupt a business and maybe even send the owner into financial difficulty. So that just means they can take their products without a warrant and keep them as long as they can, and eventually...
Without a judge stepping in and saying you have this limit or whatever.
Maybe this is when we go talk to
You have to understand, let's say there was something toxic here. Let's say there was something in here, you threw it in the microwave and heated it up, it released dangerous fumes. If there was something toxic, I need you to understand that Health Canada has ample powers to protect you if the manufacturer wouldn't recall. Now, I'm not aware of it ever happening where there was an actual danger. Because the manufacturer, could you imagine Health Canada has told you to recall, there's an actual danger and somebody gets hurt? Do you think you're going to survive a civil suit? Do you think you're going to survive or avoid going to jail for criminal negligence? No, you're not. So I'm not aware of it ever happening, but if it did happen, Health Canada could go to court and ask for an injunction. Say, hey, they're violating the Act, they're putting people at risk. Do you think any judge in Canada would not come out with a very strict order outlining exactly what the person had to do to ensure that nobody was at risk? And it's backed up by the police. It's a court order. They could apply for a search warrant and seize them and charge them criminally. Under the Hazardous Products Act, our old law, if there's a significant danger, the minister can make a binding order. It's like a court order. Just bang, doesn't have to go to court. The minister can make an order. The point I'm trying to make is under our old law, if there is a danger, Health Canada has plenty of powers to protect you, and you have to remember that. Because they're introducing this new Consumer Product Safety Act, where, yes, the old powers exist, they can still go to court, but they've written in for themselves a whole bunch of new powers. And these new powers don't adhere to the rule of law. That's the change. The change isn't that they couldn't protect you before. The change is now they don't have to use powers that adhere to the rule of law. You have to understand, A, what the rule of law is, and B, why it's so important. And in very simple terms, the rule of law is just simply the principle that before the state can take control over you, either to kill you or imprison you, or before the state can take control of your property, they have to be supervised by independent courts. That's what the rule of law is. Now, to understand how important that is, I always ask people, well, let's just imagine with me, let's go back into medieval times, before the rule of law. We're living in a feudal society where the noble or king in the nearest castle, that's the state. They're the ones that have absolute control of your life. And so before the rule of law, if the state wanted to kill you or imprison you, guess what? The soldiers would come out of the castle and they'd just do their duty. If the state wanted to access your property, take your property, the soldiers would just come and take your property. And I imagine, we don't know because we're not there, but I imagine people learned, if the state was coming to take their property, not to resist. Because you'd probably be killed. So when you're not in the rule of law, I think the populace learns to be somewhat complacent until things get to a boil and a revolt breaks out. Because history teaches us, time and time again, that revolutions are fought to establish the rule of law. And in fact, if you were to go and get home, pull out your dictionary and look up tyranny. What's tyranny? Tyranny is just simply the ability of the state to act arbitrarily. So it's in the state's discretion. And a tyranny doesn't even have to be bad. A tyranny can be established for good reasons. But it's become a negative term. It's become a pejorative term because we know when you give the state the power to act arbitrarily without supervision, that bad things eventually happen, regardless of how good the intentions were at the beginning. But it wasn't meant to be a negative term. We just take it that way because of our understanding of history. So my problem with this new bill is that it's giving the state the power to take control over property without court supervision. We're being told it's for the best of intentions, and it very well may be for the best of intentions. But bearing in mind, as I say, they have plenty of powers to protect us using the rule of law. Under this new law, literally an inspector can walk into a consumer